Hey everyone, and welcome back to Baked HR. My name is Jazmine Wilkes, and I am here with my co-host Kristina Mingert for a part two episode on mental health with our guest Tamara Rasberry as well. How are y'all ladies doing again tonight?
I am well, thank you.
I'm still doing just fine. Are you okay, Jazmine?
I'm doing fine. Am I not supposed to be doing fine?
Just checking on you.
Just checking in.
I just checked the weather for us, like in between the calls. So it looks like we're okay.
I was going to say, well, what? Let me check the weather again.
No, I checked. We're good. We're good.
Okay.
It's really mild.
Okay.
So I'm super excited to do part two. Tamara, the more you talked in part one, the more I just wanted you to come be my HR professional at my job, because you are really on to some great ideas for, weaving mental health into the culture. I think all of those ideas, like, I wish I could go and implement them tomorrow, but I'm going to be honest, I'm still a little scared. So, I'm going to work on that. But we wanted to take the conversation for part two to the other side and kind of focus on HR professionals, because it's kind of like how, when you cut hair, do you cut your own hair or does someone else cut your hair?
Right.
And I think that it's great that we have, other HR professionals to talk with all the time. But sometimes maybe our mental health needs are higher than what other HR professionals can do for us. And I saw this quote recently. Somebody shared it like as a meme or something. And I thought, oh, that's a really interesting thought to stop and ask yourself before maybe I call one of you ladies and vent to you about what I'm dealing with. Maybe I ask you first, do you have the mental capacity to hear what I'm about to drop on you?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're all in such a weird place right now. So I think everything is kind of like bubbling under the surface. So that's a really, really respectful way to make sure that you're not unloading too much on somebody else. And it really has me thinking, where do we need to turn and how do we start that process?
No, that's excellent. I think that is something that we should try to incorporate in our lives in general, because everyone is carrying something, that we don't know about. So it is easy to feel like, oh, I just want to talk about this thing, but then that person takes on that energy that you're giving for your issue, and they, may be dealing with some other stuff. So, I think it's very, I think it's good to ask that, but I don't see that becoming a thing in the workplace. Like, I don't see people starting to be like, oh, before I go to HR, let me ask my HR professional if they have the mental capacity to deal with my level of shenanigans today. I'm not.
They already think we're therapists anyway, right?
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, yeah, I don't see it happening, but it would be great if it did. But I still think it's something that we should be mindful of. And it's important. One thing I wanted to say really quick before I pivot to talking about HR professionals specifically is that one of the biggest things that people deal with in the workplace that I think they don't realize is a lot of mental health issues can manifest as performance issues.
Oh,
So when you're looking at um, performance problems, employee relations problems, thinking about different trainings to give to your managers, I think it's very important to incorporate mental health in there, because you could look at someone and say, oh, they're always 10 minutes late to work, without realizing that they're 10 minutes late because it's hard as hell for them to get out of bed that day, and they're struggling, or because they have obsessive compulsive disorder and they have to check to make sure that the lights in the water is off 15 times before they can get out the door, or things like that. You know what I'm saying? So I always say, deal with the performance issue, of course, but think about, could there be something else beyond this, especially if it's something that happens new. Like if this person has never had this challenge before, but now all of a sudden they're always late or they're missing deadlines, or you know what I'm saying? Think about what it could be that could be causing this before you automatically just say, okay, PIP time. Like there could be some underlying issue there um, that
Well, that's
you address.
really interesting to point out, and definitely something that HR professionals probably need to learn, because that, it's not like I went to school yesterday, but it's definitely not something that was covered in school for me, or in any of the certifications that I've obtained since school when talking about performance. We do like to pretend that performance is really cut and dry. You either do it or you don't. But yeah, I immediately went to days where like I can't get out of it. In fact, I worked from home today because I could not get my ass out of bed this morning, and I was like, it's too late. You don't have time to commute to work. You're working from home today.
That's real.
So wow, that's good.
Real.
And I'm making
Now
notes.
getting back to your your question about HR professionals, I think that we definitely have to give ourselves the same grace and access to the same type of resources that we're giving our colleagues. We always want to make sure that they understand the options they have. We have to make sure that we have options too. So not only just the things that you get through your employer, like, your insurance coverage, your EAP or whatever, but external ways, whether it's, you could look for a support group, or you could have a group of peers that you talk to. You could seek therapy. You could talk to your doctor. Like there's different ways, but it's like when you think about if an employee came to you and said, think about like whatever challenge you're going through or how you're feeling or whatever. If an employee came to you and said that to you, what would you recommend for them to do? Right. And then
Yeah.
do that for yourself.
So you want us to basically take our own advice?
Right. Right. I think
I
a
have no
lot of
words
us
for that.
do an excellent job of caring for and supporting our staff, sometimes to the detriment of our own health, be it mental or physical health. I'm
Yeah,
not
a
a
lot of times
proponent.
I catch myself putting myself last as an employee, even though we're employees too, right?
Right.
But I'll put myself last as an employee and then have to do, my part after I've taken care of everyone else doing their part, or, whatever the case may be. And I've been so awful as to even give and just say that sometimes to other HR professionals. Sometimes we just put ourselves last. But that's probably not what I would say to an employee that comes to me. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I think we do take on an additional burden sometimes because of the nature of our work, right? So it covers so many things, and it covers things that are very integral to people's lives, right? People come to you to talk about their benefits, their life insurance, their compensation, if their supervisor is getting on their nerves, if they're being sexually harassed, these are things that are having serious impact on people's lives. And we're responsible for either addressing it or making a plan for it or dealing with it. And sometimes people just want to vent. And if it's, not something that you're legally bound to report, sometimes you just let them vent. But it's a lot of energy that you're taking in from people that you just have to sit with. Because for one, a lot of what we do is confidential. So you have to sit with it. I used to have a coworker who was so sweet. He would always come in my office and say, like, I know you probably need someone to talk to because everyone comes to you and tells you their problems, but no one asks you what's your problems. And I was like, you're right. and I can't tell you my problems, but I appreciate you asking.
The sentiment is very nice,
The
but
sentiment was so appreciated. It was like, I can't really tell you what's going on. And he knew that I couldn't, but it was just like, I understand. He was trying to say, like, I get that we put a lot on you and you don't really have any outlet, so I really appreciated that a lot. And a lot of us are in that same boat, right? So it's good that we have situations like this where we have our peers that we can talk to. But if you need to talk to someone else, there's no shame, excuse me, in seeking help. There's no shame in seeking therapy. There's no shame in seeking a counselor or any type of, it's better to catch it before it gets too bad than wait till it gets too bad and try to address it then.
So I've noticed a lot of advertisements, and I've been getting a lot of emails at my work email, and even some vendor calls for more online therapy options. I mean, it has really kicked up in the last probably like 6 months or so. I think that as a society, we've acknowledged that this isolation and the stay-at-home orders and the social distancing and stuff is putting a different kind of pressure on human beings. And so I see a lot more talk about it, but I still don't feel like it's very normalized. I think that we are pretending this is a short-term issue, for one. And I think so. I'll just put this out there. So 2020 definitely put me over the edge, and I think it put a lot of people just like that was it. That was the last straw that they could take. And where I am now, I had only been there for 3 months before the pandemic hit. And so I feel like I barely learned what all was going on and where everything was and who everyone was before I was responsible for building a plan that allowed everyone to be able to work from home in an environment where they never did do telework previous to that. And not just to get the work done, but to make sure that they were safe, that they still had work they could contribute to, that they were going to be able to get paid for so that they wouldn't have to get furloughed. I felt like, and our executive team obviously reviewed the plans and gave feedback and they were part of the conversations, but I took that burden on my shoulders and implemented and acted on. And then especially at the very beginning, I would pick a 2 or 3 people and call a day to check on and say, how are things going? What else do you need? What else can we do for you? But no one was doing that for me. Kind of like the example you just shared. No one was calling and checking
No one called HR. How you doing?
Nope. HR is just doing their job.
Nope.
They're doing what they're supposed to do.
0.
And I really got to the point, and and so we're several months in, right? By June, I've got people begging me to come back to work because they're tired of being in their homes. They can't go anywhere else. I'm stressed out because I'm like, is this safe? Is this a good idea? Oh, you're telling me you need it for your mental health. Well, that sounds reasonable to me. I should probably figure out a way for you to get back on the work site, So there was a lot of things that were kind of up and down and up and down and up and down all of 2020, but nothing came off my plate. Absolutely nothing came off my plate. Right? It didn't make sense. Nothing could come off my plate. And I am I'm an introvert. I'm a homebody. So I was doing okay for a while. But by the end of the year, I was just like, I'm in a funk. I feel like I'm parenting people at work now because I'm so concerned with their safety. I feel more like a parent than I do an HR business partner or a program manager, or, I wear a little different hats. And so I finally said to my best friend, okay, this is it. I got to go to therapy because I'm not going to be able to function anymore if I don't go to therapy. And I had talked about it a couple of times for a variety of reasons over the last couple of years. And she was like, good, I'm proud of you. You go. And then the next day I was like, I can't do this. How am I supposed to narrow down this? It was a huge list of results. And she is a trained therapist, but obviously I don't want my best friend to be my therapist. And she has a therapist, because therapists need therapists. It's like, somebody else has cut your hair when you cut your hair. And so she was like, okay, I can help you narrow this down. And she started asking me questions, which I thought was super interesting because it was stuff I never would have thought of. And she was like, do you care the gender of your therapist?
Right.
Do you care if they're older than you or younger than you? Or do you want someone your age? Do you care if they're, religious or spiritual or, and I was like, oh my gosh. But all of those things help filter that list down.
Yep.
And then I started doing like, okay, who's close to my office or who's close to my home? Because I got to pick one. Am I going to pick somebody close to my home or close to my office? Who accepts my insurance? And then had an insurance change because we decided we were going to go with a different plan in the middle of this. So what used to cost me like $20 now cost me like $136, which was a mistake, but whatever. I just felt like I was so overwhelmed with the process of selecting someone to go talk to. And then what I found once I did start talking to someone, and I've only gone a few times, but first, we kind of talked about this offline before we started recording. And it's like you're meeting a complete stranger. You've filtered them down by these different things, on the internet, and you're meeting a complete stranger. And then she says something like, eventually you have to deal with your trauma. And I'm like, no, ma'am, I don't know you like that. That's not why I'm here. I'm here because I'm tired of 2020. What do you mean we have to deal with my trauma?
Oh, they gonna dig up all the mess. You came here for what? Oh no, I found these other things in your backyard.
No, she's starting to dig them up. And I'm like, I don't know if therapy was a good idea after all.
And you know what? That is a normal thought process for a lot of people I've heard when they first start therapy. They go for something and then it's like, hold up, you're getting deeper than I anticipated.
And
like, hold on, I didn't come here for this.
The reason I thought I was going is
right.
not what we're
but
fixing.
It's all gonna end up being connected. So some kind of way it's probably connected. It's like, so that time when I was 5 and that boy threw the ball in my head is why when I look at my supervisor's head that's shaped like a ball, I get triggered. Like it's like things tie together and you don't realize it.
Yes. Okay. So listen, you need to do a whole session for people that's like how to prepare for what to expect in therapy. Cause I'm telling you, it totally threw me. And I was like, I don't know you like that. I looked at her.
Right, I don't know you like that.
And she was like, well, I understand. And I'm not saying today, but eventually. And I was like, yeah, no. I remember leaving and like calling my friend and being like, she's pretty cool, except for she thinks that she's going to address my trauma. Trauma that I pushed down so far that I try to forget that I even have it. Right. But then we've been talking about how, like, exactly like what you just said, like how you dealt with those things, how that impacts, like how you make decisions today as an adult, how you interact with other people, how you perform your job, how you build relationships.
Absolutely.
And so now, even though I'm only like a few things in, now a few sessions in, when I'm talking to employees or I'm listening to employees, I want to be like, well, you need to go to therapy. But like, I don't want to tell them that I'm going to
a little
therapy.
Brochure. Before you leave.
And I certainly don't want to recommend my therapist because I don't want them showing up. I don't want us crossing paths on the way.
In the elevator. Don't I know you?
Like, well, right now, we all have our masks on, so maybe I could get away with it, but we won't do that forever, I hope. So I just think like if it was that overwhelming for me, for someone who knows how to navigate our benefits, right? Someone who understands what an EAP is. How hard is it for someone out in the field surrounded by people who think it's funny to make mental health jokes?
Right.
And who can't navigate our benefits and have no idea, they don't even understand what the EAP thing is, that they think that the EAP is what we send them to when they fail a drug test, not all of these other things that you can use an EAP for.
Right.
So like, I don't know. I don't know how to make it a safe space for HR to be more open when they need something, because we're carrying all of that for those people who don't understand how to navigate that. And still be treated like smart business professionals.
Yeah,
I mean,
business
that's
professionals.
really where I am.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
I don't
think
know.
to me, my thing is do what you have to do for you, and whoever can't deal with it can kick rocks. It's like, I feel like life is too short, right? For us to continue to keep ourselves tied in knots because we're worried about how other people are going to respond to our real selves. I think that one of the unintentional side effects of the pandemic is that people are having more, not enough, but more conversations around mental health because it's impacting people who never thought it would impact them, right? People who are like, oh, you just crazy. Oh, you just this. Now they sitting at home rocking because they haven't been to work in 10 months. So it's like, now they're like, oh, this is what they were talking about when they said, or the anxiety about going outside and being possibly exposed. I mean, last year, let me tell you, I ain't go outside. Period. I went to Alabama, I came home, I stayed in the house. Like that, that was it. It was like, what? I might have went to the grocery store once a month. Like, I was not playing around with these people. And then when people wanted to start talking about opening back up the office, I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. I'm like, I have legitimate anxiety about the situation, right? And so then I'm talking to my colleagues and I'm sending out these pulse surveys and I'm doing these things. And it's like a bunch of people are in this boat. So you can't operate as an employer now, today, the same way you operated a year ago. You just can't. Like, people are not even the same as we were a year ago. We have encountered so much collective trauma, so much collective grief. I mean, we're not the same people we were a year ago. So you can't operate as if we are, which means you can't run your business as if everything is the same. So you have to start looking at what can we do for our people, and our people includes everyone from the top down. Like, how do we support our people? Period.
Since you said from the top down, I want to ask you this. Have you ever had a conversation with your leadership team or your executive team about, hey, maybe you guys should probably go to therapy right now too?
Oh no.
Yeah.
It's not my place to suggest that anybody go to therapy.
Yeah.
That's not a conversation I would have with a person. To me, the conversation is always, I've noticed these changes in your behavior, or I've noticed such and such and such, would like to give you this information about the EAP. Like, I'm not like, I'm not going to say, you might want to like that's not a conversation I'm going to have with anyone. I'm going to let you know what's available. And then it's not for me to tell you what you need to do.
Yeah.
Even though I might think it, but and then I don't know people's life. I mean, they may already be seeing a therapist, or they may have had bad, past experience. Like, I don't know everybody's whole life situation. So I don't want to, bring something up that's going to make them more upset. Like, oh, that last therapist. And then now, that becomes a whole nother thing. So, I wouldn't do that, but I definitely am a fan of kind of just promoting getting the help that you need, whatever type of help it is, and just making it not a scary conversation.
Yeah, no, I like that.
The biggest thing for me is that getting leadership to truly understand what therapy can do for someone, or just being able to talk to someone that's not the HR professional can
Right.
can do to someone, because I can't solve your deep down issues. I don't even want to know
Right.
about them if you want me
Right. I don't want to know
to be
all
honest with you.
I don't want to know all that.
We know enough about you already. We don't need to add that.
Exactly.
Like, I don't even want to know all the details of people's physical concerns, let alone their mental concerns. It's like, oh, hard line right here when you get to this. I just need your doctor to fill out this form. Like, hard line on the rest of that additional information. One thing that also has helped me in kind of making it easier to talk about is because we have all of these awareness months, right? So just put it out there, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and January is what, Mental Well-Being Month. And I put it out there the same as I put out, like, breast cancer awareness and heart disease awareness. Like I share information about all of the same stuff together, so that the same way you're going to be like, okay, I should maybe get my blood pressure checked, or I should maybe get a mammogram. It's like, I should, like, take some time to think about my mental well-being. I should, just making it a normal part of, okay, we're acknowledging this, you know what I'm saying? And just not making it odd. I think the thing is, when you don't talk about it, then when you finally do bring it up, it seems odd. Or like, if your organization is not known for ever saying anything about any type of mental wellness, then somebody comes to your office and you start talking to them about mental wellness, they're gonna be like, you think I'm crazy? Is that what you think? Are you saying I'm crazy? Like, because I've never heard you talk about this before to anybody else. You know what I'm saying? You never brought it up, and now you're only bringing it up to me. So that's why, like, if you just, like, how we always talk about how, with DEI, you have to ingrain it into your organization's practices and procedures. It's not just like, oh, this is our DEI policy right here, and nothing else in the organization really has to do with it. It's the same thing. Like, you have to make sure that it's being addressed in small ways. Sometimes it's just something small, sometimes it's just big, but even like you said, like, if you hear somebody make a joke, call them on it. And even if it's, in public, call them on it, so that people understand that that's not cool, that that's not what you should do. Like, I was on a training the other day, and someone made a comment, and it wasn't about a mental health thing. It was just like it was a term that people use in general, like a common term, but it could be taken as derogatory to certain people. So I called it out, and I was like, is there a reason you use that particular term? And they were like, oh no, that's just what I'm used to saying. But now that you brought it up, I probably shouldn't say that. So it's like, sometimes you just have to call people out, and then they'll realize, oh, I probably shouldn't have said that. But they're so used to it, and there's things that could be innocuous. I mean, I could have been the only person on the call that even saw anything wrong with it, but now that person won't use that term in their next training, because now they thought about, that they probably shouldn't use that. So it's kind of just like baby steps, baby steps, baby steps. Just always try to incorporate something into your workplace, your language, your policies, and making sure that people do understand that sick leave is for mental health as well. So it's not even like, because I know a lot of people feel like, oh, I have to have a temperature of 105 and be, bleeding from a limb to take sick leave. And
Yeah.
because let me tell you, you would rather somebody take sick leave than somebody, come into your office with an assault rifle because you have just driven them to the edge. Like you driven them
Yeah.
to the edge. Like before you get burnt out, before you, go over the edge, take a couple of days, and I think, you need to normalize it. The same way we talk about normalizing taking vacation, where it's like, a lot of times people say, well, we have vacation leave at my job, but no one ever takes it. And so if I take it, I feel like they're going to look at me funny. Same thing. It starts from the top. You have to normalize. You have to lead by example. So, the same thing for everything. Normalize, lead by example.
I think so. Another example that we've dealt with in the past 10 months that I think it has been a fairly new. If you break it down, we've dismantled scenarios similar to before, but right now, especially early on when we weren't sure, do we wear the masks? Do we not wear the masks? Do we wash our hands? Do we not wash our hands? Like, I don't know what the hell people think. But it seemed like
people should always wash their hands.
I know. Listen to me. The amount of people that I learned who do not wash their hands on a regular basis at the beginning of this pandemic has truly traumatized me, because I'm just like, how do you live your life? I'm never eating at anyone's house again, ever again. Like, I already had strict rules. God, no potlucks. Oh my God, no potlucks. And it used to be because I think your house might be nasty because I don't know your life like that. But now it's like, you probably don't wash your damn hands, because we out here not washing our hands, spreading germs all over the place. But anyway, so I think that there was this weird kind of dynamic between employees for at least a little bit, and not necessarily, it hasn't come up a lot at my workplace. I have been able to shut it down every time it has come up. But, people have an opinion about the virus, and people have an opinion about how you react to the virus. And so people have an opinion about how you let the virus affect you. And so there's been some conversation that I feel like HR has turned into the referee for sometimes about, oh, well, it's a hoax, or, oh, you got to live your life. Look what it's doing to your mental, health and your mental well-being. Do you have any recommendations for any HR people who are still trying to figure out how to navigate that conversation in a respectful manner that helps protect that person who feels like it is impacting their mental well-being?
Let me ask you this. What conversation did you have with your staff before you decided to bring them back into the office?
Oh, well, for us, oh my gosh, I think that they were probably so tired of me, because I had such a detailed plan. And this is so, in fact, I think that Tally is the only person who appreciated this level of detail, because I even had a plan for the bathroom, so that there's only one person in the bathroom at a time, because there's multiple stalls in the bathroom, but we all need to be out here washing our hands next to each other during a pandemic, okay? So I had a plan that was like, if you are in the restroom, no one else can come in. So when you leave the restroom after you've washed and dried your hands, turn the light off. And that's what signals that no one is in there, so that there's not two people in a small space. So I had a whole conversation about every safety implication that we put into place. And we talked about capacity, only so many people could come in. If you're coming on site, you have to do this daily survey. And, whether you feel like it's a big deal that you reach this threshold that we pulled from the CDC guidelines, this is just as much about, protecting your coworkers and making your coworkers feel safe, because you don't know what underlying conditions anyone else may or may not have that you could be exposing them to. So it was really more about, hey, this isn't just about you. This is about all of us. And here's what we put in place. And it's not to restrict you. It's for safety.
Right. But I mean, conversations as far as people who may have had anxiety about returning to work, or, are still fearful, even though they're coming in every day, but they're still dealing with, fear, and then being put into a place with, like you said, people who aren't having the
Don't
same.
wash their hands. Whatever. Okay, so that's a fair question. And I had very little conversation about that. Like, I individually called people and said, hey, are you comfortable coming back? If you're not, let me, work on some accommodations to keep you at home as long as possible. But I don't know how much pressure they might have felt from their coworkers to go back. And we're still operating with most of our employees teleworking, but we also have customer sites. The nature of our work, not everything we do can be done from home. So some people are having to rotate and go onto customer sites. And so I don't know how much pressure they may have felt from the team on the customer site, and if they're even comfortable coming back and telling me that, or if they think, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job because I don't want to go work here with 3 other people in this really small room that probably only 1 or 2 people should be in at most. So probably not a very good conversation from HR.
I think that is, an opportunity for you to start having those type of conversations, because you don't want it to be a situation where someone feels like they can't come to you about, something that is very real to them and is impacting them and is impacting their ability to work, and be productive. So, that goes back to my whole, once you start making things a part of your regular conversation, then people, like, nobody at my job would tell you that they felt like I would not be receptive to them talking about their mental health or talking about their fear. So, because I talk about it all the time. So everybody knows that's my thing. Like, but I mean, I talk about it, or, I'll bring it up all the time about burnout and well-being and taking care of yourself. And I'm always like posting things about mental health. So everyone knows that I'm open to that type of conversation. I think it's important and everyone's going to be open at a different level. So of course, the next HR person might be like, yeah, come to me and I'll help you, find resources, but they're not necessarily going to talk to you on the same level that I would talk to someone, because I talk about it on like a broader scale. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like, the same way that someone would not feel uncomfortable coming to you and telling you they broke their ankle, they should be able to come and say, and that takes time. That's like, I'm not saying it's on you, like, oh, Kristina, blah, 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 but
Oh no, some of it is. I'm learning. I'm here to learn from you,
but
Tamara.
like, just over time you build that rapport with people, and by the way that you communicate with your employees, it gives them an understanding of what you're open to, or what they can come to you with, and not just your individual communication, but like I say, your group communication. When you send out staff emails about certain things, I don't know, every company operates differently, so I really am going by how I operate in my company. But to me, it's all about communication, and it's all about being open and transparent, and kind of just letting people know that you do matter, and we do see you as more than just the work that you do. I think it's important that we stay in open communication with our colleagues and understand where they are as far as like their workload. Because remember, like, everyone is dealing, even before all of this stuff that we're all dealing with now, everyone is dealing with things outside of work as well. So, you bring that into work with you. If your mother is sick, or, your dog got ran over or whatever, like, you're bringing that into work with you, as well as, any type of interpersonal issues you may have in the office and all these types of things. So I think it's really important to just be mindful. And, some teams are larger than others. So sometimes, a lot of pushback that I'll get from some managers are like, well, I have too many people to, check in on everybody. and things like that. But I feel like it's incumbent upon you as a supervisor to be able to do that for your team. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe you shouldn't have a supervisory role. Like, it's incumbent upon us as HR to find some type of way to make sure that we are creating a safe space, right, for people, and a fair space and an equitable space. All of those things that, we say we need in the workplace, it is a big part of our role to help create that space. We don't own it in the sense that, if someone is a poor manager or someone is hostile or whatever, we can't change that per se, but it's our responsibility to address it, right? So it's also our responsibility to address making the workplace a place where people feel like they can deal with their mental health. You don't want to add an additional burden to someone by being in your workplace. So whatever is going on with people, you don't want coming into your work environment to be an additional burden to someone, right? You don't want it to be, oh, I hate coming here. This is the work. You know what I'm saying? You don't want it to be, everyone is against me, or my supervisor doesn't listen to me, or, because sometimes the workplace can give somebody a mental health issue they didn't have before they start working there, so
That
so
is so true.
there's a lot that's going on. And now that we have, the pandemic and the racial injustice that people are suddenly becoming aware of, and the isolation and all of these things, the working remotely, it's even more important to have these conversations, because a lot of things that you might have been able to pick up on because you were seeing that person every day, you're not necessarily going to be able to pick up on now because you're not seeing them every day. You know, one of the biggest visible changes that you could see on a person if they're starting to have some type of a mental health decline is like a change in their personal hygiene, right? But with everybody working remotely, you don't necessarily notice if someone is not taking a shower for 2 weeks, you know, but you would notice if they were coming into the office and hadn't taken a shower for 2 weeks. You know what I'm saying? So these type of things that, it's just really important. I think for HR, the biggest thing is education. We have to educate our managers, because we're not going to be the person that can, put our finger on every employee. But if we educate our leadership and our management so that they know what to look for, so that they know how to have those conversations, so that they are, aware that sometimes, you know, a performance issue could be caused by some other thing than just the person doesn't want to work, then it makes it easier for the employees to be able to, feel like, okay, this is a place I really want to be, because I feel like they do actually care about me as a human being and not just like a cog in the machine. And I think that that's important. And, that's really kind of the overall message that I would give to anyone, is to treat your people like people. Like, take care of your people. Treat them like you would want to be treated. If something was going on with you, how would you want your supervisor or your employer to treat you? And then do that for the next person. Not like, there's a difference between how you would want them to treat you and how you expect them to treat you. Because I work with people who said, and going back to what you were saying earlier, Kristina, about the generations, I hate the generations conversations, but there was a different work style there, whereas like you weren't expected to ever complain, you weren't expected to ever have an issue. It's like, and I had, an older gentleman I used to work with before say to me, like, we just came in and did our job and that was it. You know what I'm saying? So that may be your expectation of how your employer would treat you, but is that how you really want them to treat you? Like, what would be your preference? Would you rather them say, suck it up, sir? Or would you rather them say, take, okay, that's fine, take a couple days, you know, let me know if there's anything I can do for you, you know what I'm saying? So it's not just about the expectation, it's about how would you want someone to treat you, and then do everything within your power to treat that person that way, whether it's being someone they could talk to, giving them an extension on a deadline, giving them information about resources they can reach out to, helping them find a colleague they can partner with on a project so they don't have to do it all on their own. Like all types of things could be impactful. And it's just a matter of talking to people and working with them. And that's something that I feel like a lot of people don't really want to do in management.
And that's one of my big things when we talk about, we're a family at work all the time here. And that's one of my big things is that, organizations can say, oh, we're a family at work. And then they turn right around. And when someone's having a mental health issue, they just brush it off as, well, they just need to get it together. Like I don't know what to do with them. I don't know, how to deal with them. And I hate when people say, I got to deal with this person, even in HR.
Right.
I mean, to me, that's disrespectful to say you have to deal with
Right.
someone.
Like they're the problem.
Yeah,
Mm.
and I think that's the biggest issue with leadership and management is that, we want to sell our companies as this big family and this big let's get together, but when the rough is here, and it's in 2020 and even before, it's rough out here, but we don't want to talk about the things that's affecting our employees. They just need to get the job done, and that's all I care about.
Right.
And
Like
deal with
I
it on their
consider
time.
Yeah.
right. Don't bring that over here. I consider when people say things like we're all a family as like a red flag. It's like I'm a bull and you just waved a red scarf in front of me. It's like no, because I find that is often coded language for we expect you to do everything that we want you to do and not complain, and because we're a family, and we're supposed to take on additional work because don't you want to help your family? And it's like just all kind of like I don't want you to tell me we're a family at work, because I have family, they have my last name. Like we're not a family. We can be collegial, we could be the best of friends, we could work together greatly,
We
but
can be an excellent team,
we could be the
but that
best
doesn't,
team.
yeah.
But like
I
don't
associate
hit me with that
family.
we're a family hokey pokey job. I don't like it.
I associate family with dysfunction, honestly.
That's what I'm saying.
So
That's what they mean. Like that the companies that say that are the dysfunctional ones. I'm telling you.
yeah, for
Companies
sure.
that are functional, they just treat their employees well and don't try to give them a bunch of hokey pokey job about being a family. They just treat them well. And then you don't have to say, oh, we're all a family, because I feel good about working here because you treat me well. Don't say we're a family and treat me like the family you don't want, the family your father had on the side, and then expect me to be appreciative just because you said we're a family. Like, no.
Mm-hmm.
Family means you treat people, not family. I don't even want to say family means. Don't say family, but just treat people well, treat them well. Like there's so many easy things that employers could do to just treat people with humanity that they don't do. And it's like, this is not something that's costing you money. It's just being decent to people. And it's like, it's so hard for some employers. And I just, I give kudos to the ones who are doing things and the ones who are trying to do things and the ones that are like at least acknowledging that they could be better. But there's a lot that just are like, nope, this is it. This is how it's gonna be. This is how we run things here. You don't like it, we'll find somebody else that'll like it.
We'll find somebody else. You should be glad you have a job. I hate that stuff. But wow, so this has been like super informative for me. I've learned so much from you tonight. I'm so glad that you took the time to be here with us. So like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for having me, for sure.
So we are going to ask y'all to keep this conversation going in the comments, because we want to know what are some of the struggles that you have. How are you getting information out to your employees? We talked about EAP previously. Like, are you making sure that you're doing everything possible to get the EAP information out? Or if you don't have EAP and you just have like hotline numbers that you want to share with your employees, that's also another good way to make sure that people know that they have avenues to talk to someone else with. So we'll post some of those hotlines in the description box for you all to share. But always remember that you can subscribe and like the BakedHR YouTube channel. We drop a new episode every Wednesday, so make sure you hit the notification bell so you can get that notification. Then follow us on BakedHR Instagram. We go live every Sunday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Central.
And just talk about some crazy things, some experiences, some HR fails, and some great stories. And then if you have questions, comments, topics that you want to see us discuss, then make sure you send us an email at bakedhr@gmail.com. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Tamara. This was an amazing conversation that we could honestly have like probably 5 more hours talking about. But thank you so much for joining
I
us.
thought y'all was gonna do the busted challenge.
Who said that?
That's what I came here for.
Who said that?
It was you, Jazmine. Stop playing. Stop playing. Oh, she go hit it on the next Sunday night IG live. That's how we're gonna open the show. Is with Jazmine doing the Busset challenge.
If y'all think
Girl,
so.
I couldn't even operate TikTok. Like I'm 73 years old over here or something. It was confusing.
Not me Googling how do you make Instagram reels? Like my millennial card has been taken from me.
It's gone. It's gone. They cut it up and put it in the trash.
That's funny.
Oh, that's hilarious. But until next time, we will see y'all in the comments and on Instagram and YouTube. Thank you all, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Okay.